it's good to have you here on the Focus on Parliament show. And I have, gentlemen here. There's a lot of masculinity happening in the studio today. But I'm glad to have these gentlemen have us this conversation around NSSF and COSASE, because they've been in the mainstream. We've had conversation around them on an individual basis, also in Parliament, on talk shows, on radio. And so it's very hard for us to walk away from a conversation as contentious as that, especially because it deals with our money as taxpayers, but then also as members of the NSSF fund. To have me have this conversation, I have Honorable Komaketch Lyandro in studio with me, former MP Gulu. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you.
It's always nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
Yes.
It's my second time.
Yes.
And of course, my comrades. I'm here also as a member of NSSF. In my own right.
Yes.
Because I have money there.
You have your money.
So
there.
I have a stake to engage on the issues that I'm managing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And next to Honorable Komaketch is Mr. Chemonges Timothy from Parliamentary Watch. Welcome to the show, Timothy.
Thank you, and good morning to our viewers. And I'm really glad to be part of this conversation because I'm a Ugandan
And an
but
NSSF
also
member.
an NSSF saver.
Yes.
Thank you.
And next to him is Apollo Tusiime, Secretary General from UPPA, Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. Welcome to the show, Apollo.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure being on Civic Space. And like my colleague said, I'm also a saver. So
Yes.
in this discussion.
Yes.
Indeed. Our name is Tricia, Gloria, and Nabaye, and I'll be your host for today. We are all NSSF members, so we've decided that we need to talk about our money and what is going on. But maybe to begin this conversation, Honorable Komaketch, between hearing about 6 billion that the minister asked for to use to create an online system for whistleblowing around people who are not committed to the fund, and also to hype people to get into saving, between trying to keep Mr. Byargaba at NSSF, but then also trying to stop his reappointment, where did we miss the narrative around NSSF?
Well, I think NSSF is a very important institution that we need to reflect on its mandate constitutionally.
Yeah.
As people who save money from the private sector and from the government agencies. The National Social Security Fund is not a simple institution.
Exactly.
And the reason why this was established, just as we got independence, its role has been changing. But of course, at present, it has moved a little bit faster and brought on board various categories of savers, to the extent that it has money, which, if well managed and utilized, can actually make a turnaround in the economy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, I see as if the ideas that should be put in place to ensure that we work with NSF is lacking, because it's a bit of gamble. Because if we now talk about we need 6 billion for a bit of sensitizing people, whistleblowing, but what is NSF doing?
Exactly.
That you do not even need any whistleblowing. Everybody will just rise up and say that we are going to arrest all of you because of what you are doing against the funds that are doing the following. So I see, ever since Bakoro was a minister, and she ended up even fleeing. I watched a bit of her footage, I think in the week, from United States, which sounded very embarrassing as well. Kind of a truth-telling now. It looks like we need to have a thorough focus on NSSF and its management, because the ministry that oversees the mandate of NSSF has a challenge. There are things they don't tell us. Because why do you wait until Byargaba's contract expires?
Exactly.
And then you start raising the issue as a condition for him not coming back? That means there are things that we should have known before Byarogaba left. And for me now, it is so difficult that even commenting on Byaragaba's reappointment and many other things, there are many things that are up to now not told. Look, when Lee Kuan Yew visited Uganda during Obote's time in the late 60s, he advised, as Uganda had produced its best national development plan, that if I were a Ugandan, I would use NSS money instead of running to borrow money from out, to spread the economy in such a way that all sectors would grow. Today, when you go to Singapore, just as a footnote to what you asked me, you find that Taiwan, Singapore, and Malaysia, the first money they held to start putting the pillars of the economy together was the money from savers, the Social Security Fund. Japan, before World War II, the money they put in place to roll out their industrialization was from savers. And they were saving through National Social Security Fund, and then they were also saving through the there was a postal something saving union. All Japanese saved there. Now that is the money they use to roll out their industrialization. Now in Uganda today, we have over, is it 18 trillion?
Yeah, 18 trillion and estimated to grow to 20.
Yes. And what are we doing with the money? People are just pinching the money with no clear guidelines on how it should be used at a bigger scale. We have to roll out industrialization. What is our industrial policy at present? The Uganda Manufacturers Association is there. Can they come up with things, then they say, this is how we are going to restructure funding mechanism. We would run away from all these institutions that we are borrowing from, where we are paying very high interest. And National Social Security Fund can be the only agency that can reignite this economy and keeping the money internally growing. But everything else, we are on a terrible leakage of money going to China, going over to where, going to where. So for me, the debate should be, how best can we have an airtight mechanism that can be utilized to ensure that savers' money can generate profit internally, but can also roll out the growth in the economy. So that is missing. Now we are busy chasing rats, you know. So and so has stolen this amount. They wait until it is stolen. There's no mechanism to even stop the stealing. So it is a very lazy process. It is a lazy exercise. Even all these reports that have been put in place, they know that our memory capacity is just 1B. Is it one? Not even. It is 1 MB. It comes in the media at once.
We have the breaking news.
The following week, the breaking news comes. NSSF is buried.
I hear you.
Now, this is where we are having a problem. How can savers keep looking at their money being played around with? You know, for me, that's the challenge. And that's what should go to Secretary General of the Press Association. We should open up these matters to everybody. Because we need people to come and save. Now we are scaring
people from
our workers, even at the private level, to come and save. Because they know that the thieves are seated and just licking and waiting for this money. So I think Parliament should get its act together. The Speaker of Parliament should be very firm on this process of NSSF. The Minister should tell us the truth. Byarogaba should tell us the truth. And the President should have a seal on the position on how NSF money should be utilized. We need a proper way of restructuring the use of NSF money. Otherwise, if the thieves are in the granary, the way now they say Byarogaba is in the granary of NSSF with so much money. Now, if you have thieves in the granary, that means they have all the passwords of our money. We are finished. This is not acceptable. Not at all.
I hear you.
It is treasonable.
And maybe also on that point, when you look at 18 trillion, Timothy, with the expectation of it going to 20, beyond, ahead of their 2-year target, because in 2 years we hoped that it would have reached 20 trillion. And what NSSF has done is invest in, I think our portfolio is around safe investments. We have, stakes in Umeme, we have stakes in MTN Limited. And so 28% of our investment policy, like money, is out there in investment portfolios. And so we've managed to generate money, rightly so. The fund has grown, and rightly so. But how do we then cap on government borrowing when it comes to the NSSF money? And hear me, because I worry. Government has a loan with Bank of Uganda of 2.4 trillion that they borrowed in 2020, and they're supposed to pay it back in 2 financial years. So that's 1.2, 1.2. And when the financial committee sat, they were they inquired as though they didn't understand where that money was government borrowed came from. And so Bank of Uganda was intimating to them that, oh, this is money borrowed from us by government. And so you have a person that is borrowing. Your data that is borrowing has 2.4 in Bank of Uganda, has an 80+ trillion debt hanging on their head. How are we going to entrust them with the savers' money, with the members' fund, to be able to use it to grow economically, but also return it in time for people that will be collecting mid-term, but also will be collecting at the end of their retirement? Yeah.
So thank you so much. So to note that the fund of NSSF is averagely 18 trillion.
Yeah.
Which amounts to close to 35-36% of our budget.
Yeah.
True.
Which is huge. But also, if you look at our budget, we are talking of our current budget is estimated to be 49.9 trillion.
Yeah.
Of that, there is a huge percentage that is going towards loan repayment and other sources.
Yes.
You are left with an average of, say, 22-23 trillion that will be used towards the debt
reserving.
If you see the difference of the total portfolio of NSSF with the amount that we are going to use in this current financial year to run the government, the gap is very small.
Yeah, it is.
But the point there I'm making is that there is a huge interest when it comes to NSSF, and that's where you see other third parties, including the executive, picking interest in terms of who manages and how it runs. It's very key. And I'm glad that the Speaker has constituted a sector committee to look into this matter. Probably, and we hope that there will be the focus will be into the mess in there.
Yes.
Because you see, if you look at NSSF, most of those who have been at the help of the institution, right from the time of 1990, it seems to be most of them have exited in a very unceremonious manner. Either you're going to Luzira or in a manner that's not very interesting. It speaks to the fact that the interest when it comes to NSSF is high. And if you don't have a sober leadership and a sober manner in which it's managed, the money will go to the wrong hands. Because it seems to be the easiest. It seems to be the easiest avenue where money can be got and poured by the mafias or whoever. I've looked at today, and you're talking about the loans that which government ideally would be borrowing. Probably it could be one of those avenues towards economic growth. I've looked at the report yesterday. The Auditor General presented the report for financial year 2022 to the Speaker. And if you look at it, as far as the debt is concerned, it says that the total debt for Uganda amounts to around 86.6 trillion, which is huge.
Which is huge.
You have said 60% of that is external. You have almost 30% of that, which is domestic borrowing. So, but that speaks, and you see, actually, I was looking at the current budget. The amount of money that goes to service the interest, not even the payment, not even the principal, is huge. That speaks to the fact that we are headed for a very long journey. And so, for me, the point is that the conversation in NSSF goes beyond the 6 trillion
Yeah.
and the mess that we are currently having.
Mm.
Because you see, when you're dealing with an institution like NSSF, the biggest trade that you want to trade on is trust and confidence.
Yeah.
And
of
once the
savers.
people lose that
Yeah.
trust.
Even those of us who are savers, sometimes many of us are there because the law requires us to be there. But we believe that it's a very good opportunity for you to save. As a principle, it's good to save.
Yeah.
But you have a huge population. Actually, I was looking at the minister's statement, and she notes that the number of people that they're targeting is close to 17 million.
Yeah, 17
workers.
million workers.
17
But
million.
out of 17 million workers, only 1.5
Yeah.
do save with NSSF.
Yeah. So you see, if you look at that gap, and you have a huge number of them that you hope you would probably attract into the fund, and then you have this mess.
Yeah.
And you have the amendment now providing for voluntary savers, whom ideally should be giving confidence
Exactly.
and the trust that you will save with us, and
your money
eventually your money is
get
safe.
it.
Yeah.
So we shall give you some interest. I've seen in Kenya, the government has been trying to promote the issue of voluntary saving. Because also, I think the aspect of saving isn't so much.
Actually, Kenya removed the mandatory deduction of NSSF.
So, which is still debatable. I think that there should be some sort of mechanism which government promotes the aspect of saving. If you leave it totally voluntary,
then everybody will get out.
Everyone will get out.
And if you have such mess, actually the thing is everyone will go and pick their money and run.
So
There has to be that element where the state comes in to promote the aspect of saving. Specifically on what I was referring to, voluntary saving, I have seen suggestions from Kenya that if you're a voluntary saver and you save whatever you put in as a saving, government contributes equally
that much
as a way to promote saving. And so when we look at NSSF as an institution, one of the things that they should be promoting and they should be working extremely hard is to build the trust of the institution, so that even those who are outside, you have very many people outside in the informal sector. You would want to attract them. So if they see this kind of things, it's a huge disadvantage too.
Skepticism.
And yet you need that money to boost the economy, to create more employers, to create more jobs, and that kind of thing. And I'm sure that even at a later date, we can discuss how NSSF, what's its role, especially in our economy, and how can it be made better amidst all these mess. Yeah.
And I think that was what Honorable Komaketch was trying to articulate, that if we had tapped into the savers' money enough to build the economy, perhaps the lessons from Singapore, Malaysia, and Japan would be ideal for us to see that we can actually develop using this particular money and return it with interest to the savers. But let me bring Apollo in regards to what Timothy said. When you look at 1.5 million savers, over 17 million workers, it's quite a big gap. I mean, 16.5 million workers don't. And in the words of President Museveni, his call and ardent urge is that people join the money economy. Even people in the informal sector should join the money economy, most probably be taxable, but then also be able to save for such a scheme as that. So when we speak voluntary, but we speak 16.5 million are not saving, does that help us question on narratives around job availability, employability, but then also, is there just abscondence or people desisting from using this entity to save their money for the future? Because the disparity of 16.5 doesn't make sense at all.
Yes, thank you so much, and I commend the submissions from my colleagues. They raised very important issues. But starting from what you asked me about, I think that small number of savers today can be attributed to the inability of government and even the fund itself, the managers of the fund, to explore this bigger population of workers, to attract, because we know that it is just last year when the NSSF bill was amended to somehow open up for even people who are not in the formal sector also save with the fund, and of course introducing other provisions like what they have been talking about, the voluntary saving. So all these avenues are looking at how they can attract many more people to save with the fund and grow the savers profile. But I pick that one crucial and critical matter they've talked about is public trust. Honorable Komaketch cited an example of the former Singaporean Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, how he advised. But again, it goes down to public trust. If you're telling the savers to, and actually what is happening, what we see now, all this mess that you see, it's all about public trust. The savers are not really comfortable with their money being tampered with. They fear that anything can happen to their money. They are not so sure that if you allow government to use this money, because why would government actually run out to borrow from either Chinese Exim Bank or where, when we have more than 18 trillion shillings a fund here with that big portfolio? So I think, one, it is about trust. The people the savers do not trust government that it can use their money and return it to the fund. Two, it can also be about the managers themselves, maybe, and all we are seeing is it rotates like you said around that trust. If you do not build trust, even the people we have now opened up for midterm access. Now it is easier for people to withdraw their what? This 20%.
And the unfortunate bit is that of the 47,000 that are due for midterm access, half that number haven't yet accessed their funds.
Yes, we may give them a benefit of doubt that just because it has started, it may soon get better. Because from the statement the Minister of Gender and Labour presented, she alluded to the fact that people are receiving, those who are eligible are receiving their what? They are accessing their funds. But I emphasize the issue of trust, that much as we would want this money to be used in developmental programs and projects, there must be trust that this money, once it is given out, it will be what? It will be brought back. But then also there is another issue of whether corruption may not also play out in this, because people would want to go and borrow somewhere where they can negotiate for kickbacks. It is a fact here, because they know that here negotiating for a kickback here may not be easy with this fund. Then they would rather go, because we have actually even in this latest loan we procured through Stanbic Bank. You see, government now going through a commission, a commission agent to borrow. You see, they are creating a middleman in a loan. So all that takes you back to why would, I'm trying to answer all that one, savers do not trust the government, and two, possibly we run to borrow outside, hoping that we can either get a kickback from that loan. But that could be a matter of
and I hear you. I hear you, especially because corruption has become a stain we fail to deal with, and it continues to eat up different institutions. And so if it gets to money that is supposed to create cushions for savers in the future, it's very problematic, because that means you die poor, yet you toiled through the years. Let me bring you in, Honorable Komaketch, but on regards to so many moving pieces around the NSSF money, when I was reading the report, the special report by Daily Monitor around the NSSF saga, it begins in Kapeka. And that was a very problematic place to begin. It begins in Kapeka. It has narratives around Operation Wealth Creation. And by the time you get done with the report, you're wondering at what point did General Salim Saleh enter this conversation? And at what point does he have a lot of power when it comes to board operations and board narratives? But that notwithstanding, the disparity also that is in, and these are so many moving pieces around NSSF, was on the minister defying the executive to reappoint the managing director of NSSF. And her grounds of contention was, one, he is shady and he has been corrupt while he was serving, but then also there is an age cap. But the unfortunate bit is also the deputy of the fund is also, eligible to also not be reappointed, because also his age cap is beyond his age cap is that he should also be retiring. And so you have this discrepancy. Why reappoint one and not reappoint the other? But then how are all these so many moving pieces attached to one entity? Yeah.
I think the statements we have made here amount to a crisis. This is a crisis.
It is a crisis.
It's a national crisis.
Yeah.
Where all different agencies and institutions of government are not trusting one another. You know, when I saw that cartoon by my friend Spire, that cartoon was well done.
Yes.
And I could see someone underground with a
cigarette.
with a cigarette on the left, and then some money is being milked through servers who are putting up there. Then I kind of had a mental image. I said, now, who is this with a cigarette? Ugandan smoke, yes. All right. So I tried to analyze in photographic thing. I went back to A level to look at my photographic interpretation. Yes. So it looks like there's a leakage in a pot. But for us, I remember when I used to hunt. There's a certain type of insect with very sweet honey in the ant hills. Once you do not follow it properly to get the honey, by first blocking, there's a hole that goes under where the pot of the honey is. The entire honey of that thing goes. So it looks like we have a deep hole under National Social Security Fund building, workers' house, underground, the basement. I think there's a leakage. And this leakage is not known to many of us. But by that drawing, it brings to you that
it highlights
there's a management crisis. There's an invisible hand in this process. So then you ask yourself, do you think Parliament, with the putting in place, you call it a select committee, is that one enough? We may need to go beyond Parliament to put a commission of inquiry. Because this thing is not a simple matter. And it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
From people who are toiling. You look at how people have struggled during COVID. Even the 50% of them have not got what they wanted.
Exactly.
Others died because they could not cope up. So, for me, the National Social Security Fund saga or crisis is now at a national level. It is now red. It is no longer whatever color. We now need to demand for a commission of inquiry, which must be instituted, so that it does not go just beyond 3 months. What we need, even if it is 1 year. Because you remember, you brought us the issues from the early times. You know, this happened, the other one happened. You know, the Onego Bell saga with the Bakoro. Then this one. Why is it that all the management leaders at a certain level, when they are to leave, they must leave with the fire? You know? And then the speed at which others are appointed. So the whole ball is with the president. The president of Uganda should put a commission of inquiry. It is no longer enough for Parliament to have a small contribution to this process. This is a national process. This money is too big. And for me, you see, when you look at the level of thirst, I don't know whether it is thirst or gluttony, which has developed through times in Uganda over money. Ugandans used not to have this kind of affinity for money so much. The Ugandans were about services and doing what is right for you. But now everything comes and said, where is my card? What everything is about percentage of what one should get.
I hear you.
You know, even when I was coming here, I have guys who are planning to be in my farm. They have not even arrived at the farm. They're on the way from Pakwach. They are saying, so, Honorable, can we get something before we reach there? You have not even worked for a single hour. So we have this challenge. Corruption has overtaken many of the agencies, and it will have to take a very, very strong, committed, position of government. I don't know how this will happen, but we have to do it. You cannot, in Luo proverb, you cannot put a dog and hyenas to smoke the meat. Eh? You can't. This one needs vegetarians. You know, we need vegetarians to be managing our fund. Because if we take carnivores, by their nature of appearance, you just see that the money is going to go. So we have to have a deeper reflection. This is worse than even a war. Because the impact of how this money can contribute to the economy positively is very serious.
Exactly.
And we are just, we're kind of smooching the process. It is something which is meant to make people forget, which should not be the case. If I was in Parliament, I would just move that government of Uganda, beyond Parliament, constitute a commission of inquiry. We have ever done commission of inquiry for people who disappeared in the country. We did the Ode report of the 1980s when Museveni came to power. This one now demands
a commission of inquiry.
Yes. Why is our money being used in a way that we do not understand? And yet potentially this economy can actually limp from this. You remember that Uganda Development Bank was requesting for additional capacity. I think they were given 3 trillion or something only. But now if the process of this money is well managed, Uganda Development Bank can be given 9 trillion, 10 trillion in a manner that is well managed, that brings back to the savers good money. I have over 150 million in that thing. And I'm scared my money might go.
Rightly so.
Yeah, so nobody should intimidate us to make comments on the future of National Social Security Fund. This money is public money. And those who are taking care of it are just custodians. How can a custodian start behaving as if he wants the money?
He's the owner of the money.
Yeah, so the Minister of Gender should come out very openly. Parliament should come out very openly. The President should make a fundamental statement and position on how NSSF money must proceed. But it must start with a commission of inquiry. Because we are scared. If people are under the basement through that cartoon, we are scared.
And it sends a message.
Yeah,
that picture sent a message.
Which is not being shared. Who is this smoking? You know? Who? This scanning.
They need to smoke him out of the pipe. Let me bring you in. Before you come in, let me bring you in, Timothy, especially on here we are, and Parliament is constituting a select committee, and on another day, COSASE would be the one dealing with such as an enterprise. But with a select committee being created, the minister was invited in Parliament, and she couldn't really defend the 6 billion that she had requested for, because, quote unquote, it was an internal memo. But with all that said and done, we've had committees come and go. We had an expose on Bank of Uganda, and the report came out. What are the actionable points in regards to making sure that the money, the members' fund, is not wasted and there is no corruption going on that is going to, limp and cause a deficit in the fund? But also critical, how do we sustain civic action when it comes to this money? How do we deal with our 1MB, mentality of it has come, it has gone? So how do we sustain that, even with the, select committee of inquiry of Parliament going on?
So thank you, Tricia. And probably we want to start with a very interesting thing that happened yesterday. I was following the House proceedings. So the minister comes and makes a statement. So there was a bit of interrogation here by the speaker, and when the minister gets done, the Minister of Finance stands up and requests to take leave, because I think that he had noticed the concerns which had been raised in the statement, that he needed to go and cross-check in his office. So the minister takes off and he goes. The Ministry of Finance is a very key player as far as NSSF money is concerned. And the minister, at the time when the Minister of Gender is presenting a statement, and immediately the minister takes off, for me that spoke to the fact that there seems to be a bit of a disaggregated manner in which all these things are being handled. Which
kind of a coordinated.
Yeah, I mean, you see,
behind the scene or something.
The Ministry of Finance plays a very key role as far as NSSF,
and they're borrowing every day.
I mean, and it can't be that
he's on record. He wanted to borrow from NSSF. He's like, we know now you have the money, we want it.
At that point, the speaker was asking for a letter from the minister, the letter from the president, and the minister said she doesn't have that letter with her. And it is the Speaker of Parliament who reminded this.
You actually
that you give me that letter. You even have it here. And the minister was, no, we don't have that letter. But you will give me a letter. I have
a copy.
A copy of the letter.
So you see that there are discrepancies in. There's not something that is really unclear about the dealings in the management of NSSF. But you can continue.
Yes,
before I come in.
With that, I think that what Honorable is suggesting could be one of those very drastic
public scrutiny
options that actually we could look into. Because then I know the concern would be that so what after the inquiry?
Restructure.
And I know that we've had very many of the same. The implementation of the same has not been to the expectation of many in terms of taking exact action as to the findings and the recommendation of these commissions of inquiry. However, it sets a baseline and it sets out the path very clear. And it puts out what ideally, even for the future references, it allows some sort of clarity. But I think within the context of Parliament, I know that also Parliament, why Parliament would largely be interested in this matter is because they represent the people, they do represent us. Two, they are charged with the mandate of appropriating money, and they also conduct the oversight role, and also legislation at that. So they have a very key role in this case. And to the extent that the speaker, and I think the conversation within Parliament as to why they commissioned, they put up a select committee, it was in the context of the conversation. So one of the members moved a motion and requested that there be a deep look into the matters that have been raised. Because looking at what the minister was, and Apollo here has told you that kind of confusion, where the minister actually was given back that letter from the president and was wondering, was it mine? So it was from the speaker's request asking her, please just table, we shall not hold it against you. And then she later went and tabled that specific thing. And so for me, I think that as far as NSSF is concerned, it's a it's a national.
Yeah.
So how do we sustain civic action when it comes to that? And I read a comment on Twitter, and the person was saying the elite who for a better part have not participated in civic organizing, in the protests, in the last mile engagements around advocacy need to actually wake up, because guess what? Those that are seemingly in the middle class suffer more from the corruption and the infighting that is happening at NSSF.
Yeah.
So how do we sustain civic action around making sure that we see to the bottom of this, so we don't disappear away to another breaking news?
Yeah.
Because we need to follow the trail of the money. Follow the money so that we'll be able to know, okay, we need to put this person either behind bars or they bring back the money that they've used.
So for me, on that one, you know, there are many stakeholders that are involved in this case.
Yeah.
And each is charged with their own mandate and each has their interest. So you have the fourth estate in this case, who also have the responsibility, not just to investigate, but also to create some sort of
Awareness.
awareness about that kind of. So they equally have a major role in terms of ensuring that this is put out very clearly, but also there's some sort of sustained conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have the opposition, you have the savers themselves who are major stakeholders
In the fund.
because they stand to lose most in the event anything goes wrong. But for me, looking at NSSF where it is today, in terms of its portfolio, in terms of its investments, I'm very confident that our money at NSSF is safe, and that those who would want to save with NSSF should go ahead and do that. Not just because it is it's a requirement, but also because there is a sense in which savings, and if we're to utilize as a country at a national level, it can contribute greatly towards the growth of this country. And probably lastly is to comment on what you had asked, why Parliament would go ahead and
Have a select committee.
Have a select committee instead of already an existing committee. So as you've seen, the issues really with committees in terms of the execution of work. There is an ongoing debate on how some committees are not doing their work. So
committees are overstretched.
The committee overstretched in terms of the work that they do have. And most times also establishing probably even a select committee or an ad hoc committee is an alternative that is available for the speaker. Because probably just for the benefit of the viewers, we at Parliament there are largely 4 types of committees that are provided within the rules, but also within the laws. So you have the first, which is those are the standing committees, which have a lifetime of close to 2.5 years, and they are reviewed. You have the select committees, which are in line with the different sectors of government. You have ad hoc committees, which are constituted by the speaker as and when there is a very critical
and
matter.
such is the one for NSSF.
And then we have select committees. So those play. So all these committees, they are at the disposal of the presiding officer to utilize each to ensure that the oversight level, that oversight role is executed.
Oh, that's interesting. Let me bring Apollo in here on. We have Parliament investigating now, constituting a committee to scrutinize and create oversight, and also the IGG's office is doing an investigation, and the results are expected in 2 months from now. What beyond the reports and beyond this scrutiny and this oversight, what actions can be expected? Because we need to build a little bit of confidence in the fact that people can be held accountable. What actions can be expected from these reports?
I think it depends on what is in the recommendations of the report, because the recommendations, of course, lay down possibly what should be taken. Maybe if you're asking me what I think can be done after recommendations are made, basing on what has happened before. I think we talked about it last time. The commissions of inquiries which have been set up before have not yielded so much. Even these the committees, the probes by committees, have not actually yielded a lot. We talked about the Bamgenere Land Commission. We can talk about the Bank of Uganda probe. The recommendations were very clear. Yeah. They all have that element of those responsible, the culpable, should be either sacked or reprimanded or what. But we don't see anything. In that direction. I'm actually interested in knowing whether the 6 billion handshake, which ended in a way that the president said, "I'm going to pay back." Did the president pay back that 6 billion?
We need to
remember
ask
that
the
handshake?
president.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is the president who said, "No,
I'll
those
pay
people,
it back.
I'll pay it back." But I'm interested to know, did he pay back? Can we know whether he paid? So even, you see, the end result is not so clear. But allow me to respond to another critical issue I realized, identified in Honorable Komaketch's submission. The appetite for money in Uganda has really
hungry for
rose to astronomical levels. And I think that is the reason why you see all this saga. A saga, a scandal here, a scandal in Parliament, a scandal. If you go down deep down, you'll find out that there is someone or some people who have an high appetite for money, and they are pushing to see how they can access these funds. We talked about 17.9 trillion. That's a lot of money. Actually, you should not be surprised to see that all this is happening. This is a lot of money. We know that though there are investments,
and so someone is eating away some of it.
Though there are investments in land, in the pension house, but there is liquid cash which is there lying idle, and these people who have appetite for money are coming for it. So, and I partly think it is also the reason why even the top leadership of NSSF have even ended up in prison or in what? It is because they are tempted by this huge amount of money that is at their disposal. Possibly, my fears are only settled by one thing: you cannot play with workers' money. Actually, I think that's partly the reason why government is really cautious about touching this money or to borrow it, to use it. They know that the workers' fraternity is very strong. Oh, yes. They can cause government to fall. Actually, if you mess up with them, with their money, they can even make the government to fall. So I think it could be partly why government is reluctant to use this money. They fear that if anything goes wrong, it goes back to them and anything can happen. But all in all, I think, like Timothy said, it goes back to public trust. With this fund, this type of institution, you don't play with public trust. Because that's the only asset that you have in this business. If the people lose trust in NSSF, who will invest? Who will save with the fund? Now you're opening up for voluntary savers. Will they really invest or save with you? If they see with this happening, they see, they hear all the news flashes are like billions are being, the 6 billion now. There is a problem, 6 billion, which is going to do this and that. So I think the managers of NSSF, the Minister of Finance, even the minister who is in charge now, you saw how there was push and shove during the amendment of the NSSF Act.
Yes.
Between who should be in charge of the what? Of the fund. The Minister of Finance saying, I must be in charge of the Minister of Labor and what? Saying,
I must be.
So you see that there are many conflicting interests in that fund. There is different people with different interests in that fund, and you cannot, the fund cannot thrive until they understand that public trust is important to their institution.
And on that note, we are going to take a break and then return and have a conversation around, Parliament business, particularly the COSASE report. Don't go away.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back to Civic Space TV. I hope you've gotten a cup of tea as we continue this conversation. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe to our channel. And come back and tell your friends to come and have these conversations because they're important to be had. I still have with me Honorable Komaketch from MP Gulu City, Mr. Timothy Chemonges, Parliamentary Watch, and Secretary General UPPA, Mr. Apollo Tusiime. And we are now going to dive into the COSASE report. One contentious issue around COSASE was that of 201 reports, they had managed to complete 5 reports. And this week, if anything, in the news, in the headlines, and even on the floor of Parliament, a lot of the scrutiny has come on whether they are performing or not. And so between that conversation, it almost tanked us in understanding the narrative around UNRWA, because the report that was tabled was on UNRWA, and there were sticky issues to be dealt with. But I think we missed the UNRWA narrative and the UNRWA debate because there is a dark cloud that is sitting on the COSASE committee right now. And the question, and in the words of the speaker, is they are shameless and lazy. But maybe because you've been in Parliament and you know how the committees run, when you have, a density of reports that is 201, how do you prioritize to have, to have them, not only just doing the oversight and the scrutiny, but also having them tabled before Parliament? I need to know, because I'm as confused as any other Ugandan right now.
No, my experience with the COSASE reports has been, one, I got a lot of very good learning from the previous Parliament, the 9th Parliament.
Yeah.
If you witness how Honorable Alaso handled the COSASE report of the 9th Parliament, then you'd know what it takes to be the chair or to be a member of that committee. And I think for us, because there are some of our reports went into the 10th Parliament. They were well done, deeply investigated, and all the truths were just open. And the recommendations were executive summary recommendations that you just pick and you see that this is justified by the other issues that was brought out. And it was technically done, academically actually processed. And so I think this also comes with experience of someone taking on the role to be leading such kind of committees. It brings in a lot of technical expertise and experience of public service and many other things. And even in the 10th Parliament, I think they tried. They did some work. What I now see is that every time COSASE would bring a report, for the 9th Parliament it was okay. For the 10th Parliament it was fine. But why is it now there's disagreement in the production of the reports to the members and to the public? What is the problem? Because even me, who does a lot of research, if you have findings which is targeting a particular entity, that is why you carried out that research. If it is policy oriented, you say, okay, this is to government, legislators, and so why is it that there must be friction to bring a report that should be helping a process? Now, for me, that is where I already see. I don't know how it should be done, because the Twitter exchanges, which is international in nature, which actually undermines our governance, our governance morality. I was shocked to see words which I have never used myself. Not even at the primary level, not even at the secondary level. Shame on who all do this and that. Then I said, hey, is this Parliament? Then you find that it is between the Speaker and a Member of Parliament, where morality should be practiced at its highest, for public interest. So the COSASE report seems to be indicating something else. What is it that is in the COSASE report that makes the body behavior of the office of the Speaker and the chair of the COSASE, shake? Because we expect the chair of the COSASE report to be very happy with the findings. These are the things we went and found out. So on this date, we are putting the Speaker on notice to put us on the order paper. You can even put a press briefing in the members' lounge. We shall, we have the things and we shall be, but the executive summaries we have already given to Madam Speaker for a quick perusal, and so that it is brought out. Because if it is Uganda Airlines, what is it that was there that we need to know? Because we do not need to have a report which is bordering, sensations. A technical report must have a methodology that is clearly guiding the outcomes. So therefore, you don't need to appear shaky. These are the methodologies we used. We use archival. We use these. We had key informants here. We had this here. We had the focus team here. So the methodology should inform the outcome. But now it is not doing it.
I hear you.
So for me, technically, I would want to know the methodology that COSASE used that is making it very difficult for these findings to be produced. What? Why?
Exactly.
And therefore, the Speaker on our side technically should also know that if these were the methodologies, okay, then these are the reports that should come out of it. These are the findings. So it is nothing like, because if COSASE goes on a trip, on a technical thing, money is spent, so why should we waste that money?
Exactly.
Because now it has come to a level where it looks like even the report may not come. So we urge Madam Speaker, we urge her. She has the powers. Let us get out. What is going on?
Let us find out.
Let's find out.
She already directed that it will not.
No, but that is why
that is a question of why is it hard to have it?
Why, Madam Speaker, we are urging her to review our position and see the best way how these things can come out, because the public may misunderstand her for nothing.
Exactly.
So while the chair also had a very uncouth response to the Speaker's remark, because I mean, decorum should be maintained. If you're a member of Parliament, you must display
Don't
courtesy
get
and very high
agitated
respect.
easily.
And also respond in a manner that gives some diplomatic, cover to those who, because this thing goes all over the world.
It's global.
And it impacts on our governance standards. So the chair should also moderate his language. He's the chair of a committee. Yeah. So when you speak to the speaker, parliament, also have certain ethical ways of how you communicate. Edit your language. It is for the public.
I hear you.
But when you start communicating for yourself, that is a different matter. That is why for me, for the public, you should have a way of addressing it. And the private, you can abuse yourself in the corridor. It's allowed.
Yes.
That is why we have the parliamentary canteen. That's why we have some of those spaces in, the members' lounge. You can do anything there, as long as it doesn't go to the public.
I hear you.
So we need the report. But the report should take key interest on the methodology used, so that we expect that the outcome was not something sensational or directed on anybody. It was a valid finding, and these are the findings.
This is what we should do about it.
So I still repeat that Madam Speaker should get an opportunity to review our statement, because the public will also misunderstand her.
Exactly.
Because if she now says it is not going to come out, then those who may be carrying the devil's advocate will say, okay, is this they part of this? That will come.
Especially with the whole photo of the person being investigated.
So we would need, Madam Speaker, we love our zeal to push things, and let this zeal be directed in a way that gives positive energy and outcome to all Ugandans. Because if she says nothing will come out, then Ugandans will whine.
What is there
because
to
that
hide?
is a public space. Parliament of Uganda is a public space. He is the presiding officer. So we need a sunshine policy from the office of the speaker that makes the speaker above everybody else. She should not be having people doubting her at all. She is very Christian. So I believe she should review this position and see a way of making amends, so that we wait and get the report, and then it is debated. And then positions are taken, and the government should implement what is recommended. So for me, I don't see so much fear about this. We should not at all. And Chairman Senyonyi should also have a little bit of reflection on his ethical public behavior. Even if something is thrown at you badly, get a way of how to do it, positively. A hot ball, you can, if you are a good striker, you tap it quietly, and then you get it back. So for me, it discouraged me. It demotivated me. It is not how to conduct public affairs. No, it is not acceptable. Our kids watch these TVs.
I hear you.
No, we shall be developing dictators in future. Because they shall have undergone this process. Say, okay, this is how public affairs are done. We shall reach a level where people go with the knives in their house. It is not good for the future of democracy in this country.
I hear you.
It's not good.
And maybe also to come in, Timothy, when you look at the COSASE report on Uganda Airlines, the Speaker of Parliament said it won't be tabled because it leaked. But in that same vein, we had the Vinci Coffee deal report leak, and it was still discussed on the floor of Parliament. And so is there a bearing on leaked reports, on them being tabled and discussed, or is even there a legal bracket that refuses leaked reports from being discussed?
Thank you, Tricia. And probably just before I respond to that, I think it's fair to mention that Parliament operates in a manner that through committees, and much of the work at Parliament is done at the committee level. That's where the bills are processed, oversight is conducted, and all the other roles within Parliament are done. And all committees execute their mandate on behalf of Parliament under the leadership of the Speaker. And the Speaker takes charge of, is supposed to work closely with his members towards ensuring that they deliver the overall goal, which is service delivery and to the country. The question on COSASE really presents a very unique situation, and a very bad one at that. It's not very nice, especially for the space of ensuring that you execute your mandate. You mentioned the question of the reports which have been leaked and their consequence, and the position that is currently being held by the Speaker, that because the airlines report leaked, it shall not be considered. I think that is, while that may be the position, and probably the Speaker is standing on that, it's good to say that it's a very, very wrong precedent that is being set. Because also Parliament sometimes operates on, other than the rules, there are practices that are developed over time that sometimes help towards running business at Parliament. So it's a very, very wrong. Imagine tomorrow there is a report which comes out, and then one of the members raises it is leaked, and then a procedural matter is raised and say, Honorable Speaker, the last report we're supposed to consider leaked, and because of that it was not considered. We also request that this one which leaked is not considered. It's a very, very wrong precedent. But also to mention, the Article 164 of the Constitution requires the Auditor General to present the reports to Parliament every year. And it gives Parliament 6 months to consider those reports.
And it's 4 months in. We are now 4 months into that report having been released.
Yeah, so also to mention that the Auditor General is a staff of
Parliament.
So it's under Parliament. And the period of 6 months, I don't know how practical it is if you don't devise means as a committee towards ensuring that you do the work of working on these, on checking, especially for the accountability committees, the Parliamentary Account Committee. We have Central, we have COSASE, we have local government. They seem to be a bit bulky. There's a lot of work. And in the past, I also serve as the programs manager at the Center for Policy Analysis. And we've worked towards, I think, in the 10th Parliament, we worked with the Park Central Committee to ensure that probably we support in a manner that, so if you have a committee of, say, 30 to 40 members, probably you could choose to divide the same and try to have different, you subdivide the committee towards ensuring that each handles, and then you have the reports and you submit. But also, I think that I'm worried of how COSASE is going to pick up after this promise. You have a chair who has also decided to go bare hands at the speaker. You have the speaker also who has decided to handle matters publicly. Because I thought actually the chairperson is speaker's member. Yes. I thought most of these would probably have been handled at the bedroom. Inside. See how
in the lounge.
To address these matters internally. It's only in extreme circumstances, which I don't see any here, that we can see such, because it messes. So you imagine you have a chair coming on board, and COSASE is constituted by largely NRM members. I saw close to 26 of 26. You have NUP having 5 members. You have 1 DP, and largely that. So you have a committee. You have a committee coming back with their suspicions of each other. There is bad blood and that kind of thing. And Honorable Lyandro here will tell you that for any committee to execute its mandate, the synergy within the committee, the commitment must be at its best. Because it's a lot of work. While those of us out here may imagine that these members go to Parliament and it's just talking. There's a lot of work. They do a lot. Actually, you find in times of, say, budget periods, and even sometimes when you're doing you actually ban the mid to ensure that much work is done. So there is a lot of work. And so if you don't have a committed committee, the committee who are willing and ready to work towards ensuring that they deliver the service, you are likely to fail. And so it is my biggest worry of how Sonyoni, because I've also seen his remarks on which he has on Twitter.
Yeah.
Many
He's
people
bitter.
asking why is he choosing the online option as opposed to presenting that
on the floor of Parliament.
Yeah, but I think going forward, there has to be, I don't know if there has to be some avenue in which most of these things can be addressed within Parliament. You see, we were treated to a very not very nice experience towards the 10th Parliament, where the leadership at Parliament had its issues, and there seemed not to be no one who could probably intervene, which affects service delivery.
Yes, it does.
In this case, where you have the Speaker probably also having issues with some of the members of the
and maybe also on that point, Timothy, because now I'm worried. Because perhaps Joel is going to be the next person in the disciplinary committee of Parliament, because you have every other case that requires disciplinary action within Parliament has been a person that is having dissidence issues with the Speaker.
Actually, Zake, the reason why he was sent to the disciplinary committee was going on social media and abusing.
Exactly. And so you also have Namganza. And now we've added Joel. Is there a problem on perhaps is the Speaker not choosing the right battles to fight? Because I'm imagining that we've forgotten the role of this, the need for this report, and now there is a tussle of one-on-one with these individuals. Are we missing the point there?
We've missed the point. We missed it long time ago. So imagine we are focusing now on the conduct.
On the persons.
We are not looking at the report.
Exactly.
All this time that we are focusing on and the conversation, and even now we'll be discussing. So the report on airline was presented. How do you make of it? Yeah. Now the conversation that we are having is why it delayed and why it leaked and why it's not being. We have missed the point at all, and I think even where we are today, you find that the essence of Parliament seems to be getting diluted. You saw towards the end of the 10th Parliament, an omnibus motion is passed, which was moved by Nandala for an omnibus adoption of all reports. So we are finding ourselves again towards the same, and we are in the middle of the
different circumstances.
So the Speaker says, now since we are going to this stage, we are going to adopt all the reports. We shall treat them considered, which affects the essence of why they were conducted.
And maybe also to bring in Apollo there on the omnibus, because it preempted the conversation around how do we, navigate and scrutinize public entities if we are doing omnibus, concessions to these things. Because the challenge that we face is that there are a lot of public entities that are going to go unchecked if we choose to do the omnibus consideration for these bills. So how do we stop such a narrative? Because if we only have 5 entities scrutinized under COSASE, and their reports equally have not been tabled, and then we are saying, in regards to that, we are just going to consider all of them under the omnibus and then pick up other reports. Does it affect the, the quality of reporting, but then also the accountability status and narrative of public entities if we are just doing, a blanket check on everything?
I agree that it's a bad precedent, as my colleague has said, a very, very bad precedent, because if you set such a precedent, then other people in future will find a reason to abandon
and to sneak
scrutiny
in
of reports if they have interest in those reports.
Vested interest.
Yes. And I think I also believe that the Speaker of Parliament should think again and reverse this directive or this decision. And Honorable Komaketch raised a critical matter, and he was interrogated, and he was moving to what we should be talking about. how did we reach here?
Exactly.
Why is it happening?
Mm.
And I also agree with him that partly it is because we have people who maybe do not have that experience, that good experience in offices. And I'm not pointing to anyone in particular, because both sides, you can look at even the chairperson of the committee. We have a chairperson of COSASE who is possibly is new in office in this particular environment, where you may say he has a host of committee members, but then the head, the chair,
I hear you.
really has a lot of say in what happens in committees. But again, you also look on the other side. We have a speaker who also doesn't have that, because we know how she came in. She didn't have that time to first serve as deputy speaker like her predecessors. Then she went straight and was elected speaker, and then even her deputy is also. So you see, the leadership somehow lacks some experience in what they are doing. But that shouldn't be an excuse in any way. They should be looking at what their predecessors, how they handled
the house.
Seek counsel from other people who have even the former speaker, Edwin Chuan
He's there,
we have the great Kanda and many other people who can actually provide guidance and all that. But what plays out now, if you critically look at what is happening, there is a burst of egos. Everyone wants to show that they are big, they can do this, and which is very dangerous to because the matters they are playing with are really critical matters.
And national issues.
The national issues. They should think again, because whatever happens now, they have a direct negative effect to the population. If we do not know what is in that airline's report, it creates another sense of suspicion. That's why would you really decide not to get the people the members debate on these critical matters? A lot has been talked about, and you also hinted about we can blame Honorable Senyum for all this and that. But again, if you have witnesses summoned to the committee, before the committee, and then they are expressed. I mean, they are not so cooperative. You first write summons before they show up before the committee, and then when they come, you see them posing with the principal, with the Speaker of Parliament. You see, both you create that suspicion that maybe these people are being influenced. Their actions are being influenced by what? By the powers, by the authorities above. So you look around and you don't find who to blame for this, because we cannot say Senyum is to blame so everyone is to blame for this. But all in all, I think the sanctity of Parliament is really paramount. The institution they are handling is really critical, both to development and posterity. So they should start. I mean, they should rediscover their importance and the importance of their offices for us to move forward.
And also how to deal with diversity, because I think it's a question of how diverse we are, and the entities we represent when we come into the house. Only to remember that you represent the people of Uganda. And so if the people of Uganda don't know what is in the Uganda Airlines report, it's a bit problematic, because there's a lot of taxpayers' money on the line. But as we go into that, I want to bring you in, Honorable Komaketch, in regards to actions from these reports. The UNRWA report was tabled and it was discussed, but the actions therein, or the recommendations from these committees, how do we have a follow-up in making sure that we get to the end of these reports and find, actionable points of holding people accountable, but then also making sure that these entities that have been scrutinized and the oversight work done, restructured, and also, brought to a point where they can actually work.
Yeah, I think this is where we need to review our rules of procedure to have an impact. Because I've seen many times you have motions and you just urge government and it is at their own discretion.
Hey.
We urge you, it's a very polite language though.
It is.
But our parliament works globally, especially in Commonwealth practice, is that when the legislature sit and debate a motion or a particular thing, and then recommendations or certain resolutions are arrived at, the following day, the speaker issues what they call there's something they issue which goes to the particular areas where those resolutions or recommendations are made for execution. So you see the linkage between the legislature and executive works, or even when the judiciary puts up a judgment which is really very serious. Parliament takes it immediately, said, okay, this is a new precedent, so we shall go with this. It is practice. So the three arms work together.
Yeah.
But I'm beginning to see that Parliament sometimes, debate, resolve, and nothing happens.
Exactly.
So the rules of procedure must be reviewed to the extent that if Parliament makes a resolution and then execution notes are given to the various ministries or the executives that are supposed to do it, there should be a design of the implementation strategy. What is it that in terms of failure to do that should amount to? So there must be a sanction against certain positions that are taken on policies, which is lacking. The only thing you need is that you need the speaker to be vigilant.
Yeah.
That I'm calling you in regard to this thing which we sent to you. When can you report to the House that you are implementing this? Is there evidence to this process? Now that is what is lacking. Many things are done, matters of national importance, sometimes very serious matter.
Yeah.
And then the minister said, no, in 2 weeks I will come back to the House.
And let you know.
He will never come back to the House. Until again you raise a matter of procedure. If you know the parliamentary debating rules. So last year you mentioned this. Like what I did. I remember when I put a question for oral answer to Minister of Energy. I put the thing, they disappeared. 3 months, no report. And matter when you write question for oral answer, it is one of the tightest things, but many don't know. Because you are required to go and research, come back to the House, and report exactly what is on the ground, not just lie. Now, Minister of Energy, the lady just looked at, this is just a new member of Parliament, what does he know? To just start on the thing. I went to Speaker, I said, Speaker, I'm raising a procedural issue on this thing. Because that was 3 months, 4 months. He said, just proceed. Just when we reach the House, just proceed. I will be the one now to handle the minister.
Oh, wow.
Then I raised the thing. The Speaker roasted the Minister of Energy. The lady almost ran mad.
You are lucky you had that Speaker.
Then there was a commitment that we give 2 what?
2
weeks. After 2 weeks, the lady never came back now. She sent Lujanga, Minister of State. Because he's a technical guy. He came and presented for 1 hour on energy, on Omeme, which helped everybody in the country. They had to explain Bujagali, they had to explain this one, they had to explain Karuma. The minister even requested if we could travel with him to the north, a few members of parliament who are interested to travel with him. We went. We spent 1 week with the minister in the north. Again, he came and presented. That is what sparked off a lot of work on Karuma and review of the standards and sort of thing. So for me, the members of parliament should have an introspection. I don't know at what point they do a review or retreats. because you need to inform the rules of procedure as you progress. Like now, they will be going for a longer recess. That is the period when you said, are we working? In terms of how the rules of procedure plays, the best example was on that issue that I mentioned earlier on how Parliament directs the executive to implement the decisions they make. And on that, for the Minister of Energy, it works so well because when they were tasked and reminded of what they should have done, they had to be forced to do it. It was a public shame that they had not done it. So the end result is that everybody benefited nationally by bringing out issues that many would not have known.
Exactly.
The gaps that existed. It even generated a new challenge to umeme operations, you know, which actually up to now has brought bigger problems even to the distribution strategy of umeme. So for me, we need to keep pushing that the rules should change depending on challenges that are ahead. Now that we have challenges of memory losses these days of Ugandans, I don't know whether people are eating now food because we eat takeaway food. Yeah, our memory capacities are now just like the takeaways. They are just disposable. You talk now, the following day, everybody will say, I don't know what happened. So we need tightened rules of procedure that gives obligation and sanctions to entities that are assigned to do work and they fail to report, there must be sanction on them. And this should be public sanctions. So Parliament will be stronger with a better teeth to bite those that are supposed to be, you know, challenged. But as of now, it is just laissez-faire. You give your thing, you give your prayers, the prayers are there. It ends there, we shall see. So we need, Madam Speaker, to put our feet down on drastic follow-ups because this is what is going to eradicate laziness.
On actions
taken. Actions taken must be noted, and the quarterly reports of performance of Parliament and the executive should always be there for the public to scrutinize. Because if we don't do this, then we shall have representation in name. We shall just be having a casual approach to governance in this country, which we cannot tolerate because these are all getting at very expensive rates.
It's expensive for the taxpayer.
We pay heavily. Yeah, we facilitate the members of Parliament. They are highest paid.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the country. So they should also give value for money. Yeah, for me, that's what I would look at it.
And interestingly, so, Komaketch, let me, and I'll let you at a later time as you set off to find a way of getting out. But after that, I noted that COSASE has had a lot of, you know, investigations that have happened, and over time there've been no action, or if the action happened, it didn't have implications of the people that were implicated in these stories. And maybe Chemonges, that is why you would need to help me. We had Justice Barrienda during the COSASE on the Bank of Uganda probe. That was 2018. And nothing a lot happened there. We had the story around the UBC mast theft, and we had Honorable Kaka Kawakumba Masikwa there. That is 2011. Still nothing happened there. We had Margaret Muhanga. I think it was still around the UBC land and the goats, you know, saga. And then she's now even, I think, a minister now. And then we have, you know, Jennifer Bamtaraki during this Uganda Airlines report. And it looks like the probe is going to also die a death that we cannot deal with because still nothing is going to happen there. So how do we deal with such a redundance when it comes to reporting, when it comes to holding, you know, public servants accountable to the Ugandans and to the entities that they serve? Because it looks like it's a habit we've learned to do the reports and we go on with life, shame them in the day of life, but then also go on with life with no actual repercussions thereof.
So, thank you so much, Tricia, and I really appreciate the submissions by Lyandro here. But I just needed to also mention that the 11th Parliament has adopted a number of approaches for which, if in my thinking, if they are well executed, they are likely to yield results. The challenge is when politics gets into all this.
Yes.
So what to strengthen the oversight pro and even legislation role, Parliament has introduced the action taken reports that the executive is supposed to present. They presented the first lot towards the end of the year. However, what caused the confusion is that they were trying to present action taken reports of resolution for the last ever since the 11th. So, but they were bulky. You get even just 1 month. The resolutions and the positions that Parliament has taken, there are many. So, and given the limited time Parliament has, it's very hard to objectively and critically go through most of those concerns. So if you find a minister coming and say we did this and blah blah, and time is rushing and all this kind of, so you end up not being able to get value for what you had intended. And so if the action taken reports can be presented in a more shorter time, I think that, and there is more strictness as far as the position that the executive is taking, verified and it's true. If that can happen, it's likely to contribute towards implementation of resolutions and the position that Parliament has taken. Two, we've seen last year the Parliament introduced the budget performance reports that the Ministry of Finance is supposed to present to Parliament. Those clearly highlight the disbursements of funds as appropriated by Parliament, which I thought it was a very good and it's a good move. Only that it needs to be beefed up and Parliament needs to be more strict, because as Honorable Lyandro is mentioning, most times it ends at urging, and so if you see some of these measures coming in place, you find that it helps. But also the other thing is to just mention is that they say that the day hunters learned how to
write their stories.
No. Like the day hunters learned how to shoot without missing, birds learned how to fly without patching. Yeah. So it's a thing now. You see committees, when you see committees doing work and producing reports, and they are not being considered, or even after being considered, they are not done. Like there is no clear results of work or hard work put in. You notice that some of these committees, especially what the approach that they take is to shame and to really expose all the dirt, all the mess at the committee level, so that even whether the report has been considered or not, you've substantially gotten exposed to the public the mess. And you see the other thing is that you notice some of these committees, they put in a lot of work. You put in a lot of work, but when it comes to the output, I was looking yesterday at the report of the Auditor General, and it exposes a lot of mess. I was looking close to over 1 billion was lost towards ghost workers. You see, the report highlights that URA failed to collect close up to 360 billion on gold business. I think there is, I don't know,
and that's a lot of money.
360 billion was lost. I know that the URA is supposed to come, and there is a lot. So sometimes even when Parliament would want to like cover, the mess is too overwhelming that Parliament or these committees cannot do. You see, for example, the airline saga. You see, while there is a section of the public or the leadership would want to imagine that the image of the airlines was being affected and the credibility was being affected. It is government. It is the Auditor General who looks into the reports and brings them out. Yeah. So whom do you blame? You see, it's the mess that is there. So so the committee is trying to demand for accountability. Yeah. You employed this. You used this amount of money to give influencers. You employed recruitment process is messy. So when committees are demanding for such accountability, it's not, it has already started from somewhere.
Yes.
So to that end, you find that there has to be some sort of synergy and that kind of blend in Parliament. If that is not there, you're likely to have a disaggregated Parliament. Each is pulling from this side, a leadership is pulling from this side, and you end up not delivering.
And I hear you, and rightly so. But to maybe wind down this conversation and help people understand, one of the key contentious areas Joe Senyanye has been talking about was that given the other COSASE committees that have been present, he feels that their team has actually done an exceptional work. And his comparison, because when the speaker spoke for value for money, and then the questions of how dare you have 5 reports only compared to the 2,211 that you should have looked into. And so Joel's response is that the COSASE chaired by the Speaker of Parliament spent 6 months dealing with the Bank of Uganda, probe. And whereas it also did that work, it needed an extension to finish the work and the activities thereof of the committee. And so when we look at performances of these committees, can we audibly say, and I really want that answer, because some of us imagine that, the work might be simple, but I want to believe a lot goes into doing these probes. Can we audibly say that the COSASE has done the work that it should have done, and very well so?
I want to some extent sympathize with the committee, the COSASE Committee of Parliament, because we know how this committee operates. You have timelines to beat. Then you have these witnesses, stubborn witnesses that you invite and they
then
don't
they will refuse to show up. Yeah.
And when they show up, they come in bits. Some come, others do not come, and they will excuse themselves and say, please, can you allow us? And we go, then we prepare ourselves, and then we come back. You see that back and forth in committees, especially those accountability committees. So I think the COSASE did some work. Actually, let me say that even bringing out this information, getting the world to know what is happening in Uganda Airlines.
And I love that the probe was public.
Yes. Yeah. That people, you know that at one time they were actually planning to ban the media out of that committee.
Yeah.
Yes. So you see that there is a lot of pressure at times. And like I said, then there is this dilly-dallying of witnesses who come, you summon them, and then you have timelines to beat. You see, it depends on who you're dealing with. At times, you can be lucky to have witnesses who are ready to cooperate, who are ready to arrive, to come in time when they are summoned, and then possibly you work very fast and you compile several reports. But I think in this 1 year, you have 5 reports. And like Joel Senyanye said, they picked, because there are many, they looked at those possibly where a lot of money has been lost, or those they decided to deal with. Maybe you can fault them for not maybe going for those easy ones, which they can do and
quickly
then
have
get
mass.
many numbers. They get numbers. But I think, to me, they did some good work. And I wanted to also tell you that we usually credit the members, the House, the committees, but we do not give credit to the Auditor General.
Oh yeah.
All these things arise from the Auditor General's work, and I'm not so sure whether his office is well facilitated. But you see, even yesterday, I think he presented audit reports for 2021, 2022. So for him, he's doing the work. He's doing the work. Imagine he brought 107 audit reports to one committee of COSASE, 107.
Yeah.
And now the committee of very many people, very many honorables, can only process 5 or 4 reports. So I think also we should credit the Auditor General's office for doing the good work, because we usually, actually all the work we talk about, all these things we discuss, they come from his office. But all in all, I think the integrity of Parliament is at risk, and that is a matter of concern. And the integrity of any institution can be as good as its leadership. If the leaders do not take this matter as serious and protect the integrity of the House, then we are going to lose a lot.
And especially in dealing also with the witch hunt. And I don't know why the Speaker of Parliament has been called on the offside often, because once is a mistake that perhaps there was something to look into. But when there is this constant witch hunt of individuals, how do we deal with it without losing the sanctity of Parliament?
Now it goes to her personal decision, because
it's in the person themselves. The person of
they must make a decision on how to handle matters, especially those matters that affect a bigger public. Because if you're handling a matter of accountability that involves taxpayers' money in billions, not just millions, in billions, then you must know that of course you will be you will be open to criticism. People will criticize you, but you should also have the skill to stick to what you think is right. It is now really bad when people start thinking that you are fighting personal battles. You are pushing personal vendetta. When actually they expect you to do what? To look at the bigger good in this whole issue. So it goes back to the leadership of Parliament, because the public expects you to do the right thing. You cannot make any excuse, because you are in office. Once you are in office, you expect
and you become a public figure.
And
I think people need to also start to be okay with the right to be offended.
Exactly. We talked about, actually, you know how the computer misuse,
computer misuse
act, and the people who were behind it, they are the same people we are talking about. And and now then the Constitutional Court says people are free, have a right to offend you. It shouldn't be a case to be offended or somebody to offend you. So you have to have that tough skin to withstand the pressures and the criticism. So if you were in a public office, you should of course know that this is a public office and you are using taxpayers' money. Your office is sustained on taxpayers' money. So the taxpayers have a stake in everything you do. And actually the decisions you make affect them directly. So you have to listen to them, give them space. But if you say, I am the boss, I cannot be criticized, I don't take criticism, untouchable, then we lose it.
Where do we go from here, Timothy? In not just dealing with the narrative around NSSF, but also in building civic consciousness, because we know these things. We are privy to them in the media space and in our conversations. But where do we go from here? From not just holding our leaders accountable, from not just holding Parliament accountable, but also from making sure that we follow through on the critical asks we have of our leaders.
So for me is to first, of course, such as spaces like civic space really, where the thought behind them was to create some sort of a space where the citizens can be educated, but also they can be made aware and create that sort of conversation burning and going on. And this is one of those. But also to mention that I think it's countries like Kenya have benefited very much with having an informed citizenry.
Yes.
A citizenry that is aware, the citizenry that can demand with information, you're able to demand and you're able to hold the leadership more accountable. But also, I think where we've reached, if we don't have a very outgoing citizenry, things are likely to get out of hand. Because today we are discussing the legislature. We have the executive, whom if we chose to also discuss and talk about, there's really a lot. The judiciary is not innocent at that. So you find that in those old spaces, you find there are things that if you don't have a citizenry that is well informed, there is like a lot goes and past. And for me, at the end of the day, each of us plays a role in whatever space we are in. You have the fourth estate. You have those of us those who are in the civil society, those who are in different spaces, really. Like you hold, and I really admire that we have the citizenry media, the citizen, how is it called, the citizen journalism, which has really played a key role. You saw what happened during the Vinci COVID deal. Other than just, you could see people are very agitated and they could use the space within they have, social media and whatever space they had, to venture out their anger. And it's in this same space that we can hold our leaders accountable. And probably just before I know that we're getting done, is to end on the note that the roles of Parliament, this being focused on Parliament, are usually very, very clear, and they have been stipulated in the Constitution. And those are usually majorly 4 of them. One is to legislate, which is to making laws for the good governance of this country. 2 is to appropriate, which is budgeting, and that lies in the space of dividing and sharing the national cake. And then you have the aspect of oversight, that after you've budgeted, after you've given out the money, now you have to follow through and ensure that the money has gone to the right places, the money is doing what you had intended, and there is value for that money. And then the last role, which is also very, very fundamental, is on the representation, that they should be able to air our views, not their views, not what happened during the constitutional amendment, whatever, that people chose to deliberately represent their interests, not the views. So that's also another major role of Parliament. And within that, it's very key to understand, and we demand for accountability.
And thank you for that, because that's a critical note to end on, to remind ourselves of what the role of Parliament is. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for always sitting in with me to have, critical lenses into the issues that are happening in this country. Please do join us next week as, we put our lenses on Parliament again. And this week, I hope as you go through your weekend, you remind yourself on the need to critically ask your parliamentarians and your leaders on what they're doing in pushing for your interests as individuals, but also as a country. Thank you for joining us. See you next time. Bye.